God loves you and I love you too. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. Now look at the person next to you. Say, I recognize the God in you. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. From every walk of life, every creed and color, in kinship we unite, in honor of the God in each other, yeah. So take a look at the person next to you. Say, namaste, I bow to you. Feel the love and the unity. Oh, lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of, one more time, let's come together. We come together, we come together in the name of love.
So wonderful to have you all here this morning. We have visitors from out of town, which is very exciting, and friends from close by also, so you are welcome. Of course, we have all of you online as well, so welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living here in Granada Hills, California. My name is Reverend Michael McMorrow. I'm the senior minister here at our center, and I'm joined today by our assistant minister, the lovely Reverend Nancy Woods. And the real reason why people come here, Teresa James is here with the music. So she's got some stuff prepared for us today that you're really going to enjoy. But before we get to that, let's take a deep conscious breath and release and just allow ourselves to surrender to this moment, this eternal now moment, as we come together for our call to service, which we call Lighting the Flames of Faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. Now, fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as the good Reverend lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. The sixth candle we light for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the 8th candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the 9th candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space we hold for them here in our sanctuary, within our online community, and of course within our own hearts. And as Reverend Nancy lights the healing candle, remembering those who may have surgeries or any other forms of healing needed this week, we put them silently into the light. Anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
There is one flame that burns in our heart. There is one light that shines through our love. We light this flame with faith. We find this light within our own soul. There is one flame, one light within.
And as I feel this flame, and I'm aware of it, I'm aware that this flame of life, this flame of love, and joy, peace, and harmony, is the flame of that divine presence saying yes to life. So as we feel that flame within each one of us, and know that that one flame brings forth all the glory and joy of being alive and being able to experience this presence. It is a wondrous experience to know and to understand that each one of us is the flame of life in expression. And the power and the ability to bring forth the newness of creation lives within that flame of awareness. And as we know this, we know that we have decided to create a good experience in this hour together. We could create an experience in which we are able to receive that which is needed to awaken the greater glory of who and what we are, that is able to reveal to us even greater that the divine presence is in every one of us. And to know this and to feel this and to understand this, this is the joy of being on this wondrous spiritual path of love, and truth, and harmony. The power behind it is so great. We rest in it and allow ourselves to receive. As we willingly allow ourselves to be our greatest being in this moment, knowing that it is the only moment that there is. So it's with love, we say thank you to the Lord of the universe for giving us this opportunity, this chance to recognize the truth in ourselves and everyone around us. We do this together. We unite in this awareness, knowing the power of this unity as we say together, and so it is. Thank you. I'm looking at you and saying, wow, it's been so long. Those little boys are grown now, right?
Yes, they are.
Wow. This is a wonderful path. And I'm looking back there, and I'm saying, how are you? I'm saying, thank you for your presence over there. So to have all of you to join us, and all of us to recognize and understand that the spiritual presence of life has really given us this moment. And it is a gift. And that wasn't what I wanted to share, but y'all kind of stir things up. But I do want to share something that really hit me this week more than ever. You know, having faith in God is one thing, but knowing God is a whole nother level. Knowing God within just kind of lights the path. It kind of gives an even fuller meaning to every moment. And one of the things that I've experienced this week is that sometimes our weakest point, weakest area, becomes the greatest area because you have to get out of the way because you can't do it. Allow Spirit, that power, that divine presence to do it through us. And sometimes I wonder, why do I always get in the way? But it is moments like that that remind me, okay, get out of the way. And I truly can understand what Emerson was saying about get that bloated nothingness out of the way. Sometimes it is so real and so true that the Spirit of life gives you these little nuggets that seem like it's sad, and then it turns into joy. I went to a sweet 16 birthday party yesterday to my grandniece. And she's dealing with some illnesses, and it's, so I went there, and I kind of had a heavy heart. But last night, we were sitting there laughing and talking, and I really felt like all of a sudden, I said, no. Everything is an opportunity to turn to Spirit. Everything is an opportunity to realize the joy of life is always waiting for us to claim it. It's real. It's always in me. It's always there. And I was laughing so much, I almost fell out of the chair, and I just realized, wow, this is better. This is the way life is supposed to be. And no matter what I'm handed, the willingness to allow Spirit to come through always pays off. It pays off so richly. It really gives you the understanding that life is really waiting for us to claim it. We just need to claim it. Everybody in here, we're here because we want to claim it in a greater way, all of us. And thank you for allowing me to share that with you.
You say you want to get over. What are you gonna do? Watch the world go by in a corner all alone. And I know it's none of my business, but there's something I need to say. If you could see you the way I see you, you'd start flying on your own. step aside and let your light shine. Let your love show. It's a short ride down a long road. And when the rains come and the winds blow, let your light shine wherever you go. This world is ready and waiting for you to come on through. It's time to recognize, realize you're the only one like you. So step up, step into your greatness. But don't you be afraid. There's a place that you can rise up to. No one else can do what you do. Get out of the way and let your light shine. Let your love show. It's a short ride down a long road. And when the rains come and the winds blow, just let your light shine wherever you go. Love show. It's a short ride down that long road. And when the rains come or the winds blow, just let your light shine wherever you go. Oh, let your light shine wherever you go.
Oh, see, your spirit is so good.
I was
That
going
was-
to change the song, and I thought, she just started talking, I thought.
Oh, unity is an amazing thing when you experience it. Yeah, thank you, Juice. That was just so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I'm supposed to do announcements, aren't I? If you want prayer support, you can always find a practitioner online, and I would invite you, use your practitioners. It's good to be on the path, but I'm learning that, help your friends and energy around you can really help you stay on it. So use that practitioner. There's a Zoom fellowship meeting right after this for those who are online, and it's facilitated by Julie Duckley today. So you may join them and say hello to the people that aren't here, but y'all need to come here. The Healing Support Group is online today. Is it today? Yeah, at 1 o'clock with Reverend Jessica. The Law of Attraction is online. We switched it to April the 24th, so it'll be at 1 o'clock on April the 24th. The Bereavement Support Group will be on April the 24th, also at 1 o'clock. And I'm open the doors. Y'all come and join us at Arrowhead. It'll be a lot of fun in a wonderful environment. So it's an opportunity to just sit in spirituality for a few days and step out of the other energy. That's all I'm going to say about it. Okay, so would you join me and stand and say the Declaration of Principles? Principles that we can say as many times as our life has allowed us to do it. So we believe in one universal spirit manifested through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal too and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe that our faith operates upon the law of mind, which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and the immortality of the individual soul, forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness and the loving kindness and the giveness of our life to all.
We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be.
All right. Nicely done, Teresa James. Let's give her some love here in the room and on the chat as well. Do you ever go back and check the chat?
No,
They say nice things about you on there. Yeah, behind your back. Yeah. All right. That's one of Maureen's old jokes, but it's still a good one. Got to dust it off once in a while. And I just want to say I'm thrilled to have colleagues here in the room. So Reverend Doug and Reverend Sharon are out from Michigan now. Yes, and Reverend Gary and Reverend Barbara from down the street. Sherman Oaks, I think you guys live in? Yeah. So anyway, it's great to have you here, along with our own staff ministers and all of you. Hawaii's represented today. Simi Valley's represented. You know, it's a good day. Santa Clarita is like here in droves, right? So anyway, it's just great to have you all here. And we're working on this. So we decided to deviate from the global theme a little bit. We're working out of the Science of Mind 365 this year. So we're getting back to basics. And so our April theme is renewal. This comes out of our annual theme of resurrect, rebuild, and renew, because back in November we knew eventually we would be there, and here we are in the middle of it, so good for that. And today's talk title is Life is Activity and Never Stagnant. And our contributors, as you can see there, are Reverend Elizabeth Schneider, Reverend Kathy Lyons, who's here with us today, and Agneta Bylan out in Arizona. So, by the way, we also had someone join us from Fiji on Facebook last week. So that's pretty cool. So if you're watching, hey. And so we're doing this whole thing about life as activity. And so I just wanted to share these images with you. Hopefully I'll be a little more active than that. But, you know, I've never played bocce. I should try it. But this is probably a little more my speed. Right, so life is activity. So I'm pumping the juices for you, right? So we're over this thing. It's summer's coming. And you're going to wish that snow melt water was splashing all over you in another month. And then here's our Granada Hills dance team of which I just made myself an honorary member. So, and of course, this week's consideration, we have a whole menu of religious considerations, religious holidays that have within them one key element, which they all share. So today in the Christian calendar, it's Palm Sunday, which is the day when Jesus really started to make stuff happen. So the moral of that story is they praise you on Sunday and they crucify you on Friday. And so we can all relate to that in some kind of way. We're going to talk about that more next week. And it's also 3 weeks left in the Ramadan fast, which is no food or water from sunup to sundown. Yeah, and I'm just trying to get through chips and guacamole and cookies, which I'm staying off, by the way. And yes, we're doing a class releasing the COVID-19. Yes, so we're doing that on Mondays, and then we are on day 32 in our 40-day reset for prosperity as well. So we've got a lot of things. I'm just getting you guys up to speed here. Yeah. So, and then of course on Friday we have the Passover remembrance celebration within the Jewish faith, with Easter Sunday, of course, next Sunday. The common thread running through all these. So whether we know it or not, we are giving homage to the one power in all religions. Or is it bunnies that can lay eggs? Right? And making it okay to step off our food plan for Cadbury eggs next week? No, I say. So this week is about honoring a spiritual continuum that started with two things in Judaism, right? The triumph of the God of Israel, the one true God over all other gods, right? Thousands of years ago, at least four, maybe five, certainly in oral history, maybe even 7,000 or 8,000 years before that. Second, a divine promise made to Abraham and his descendants. Now this established a divine inheritance that has been passed through to three major faith religions. Judaism, of course, but also Islam through Abraham's oldest son, who was Ishmael, who was, and this is where the Bible gets to be some juicy reading, through their servant, the wife's handmaiden, because even though God had promised a child, they were getting on in years, and Sarah was afraid she wouldn't be able to hold up her end. So, hey, Abe, I got an idea. And so that's how Ishmael came along. So he's actually the oldest son. And then there's some really interesting things that happen around that whole story. And then, of course, Christianity, where I think most Christians forget Jesus was a Jew. Or certainly, if you look at the history of the way Christianity has treated those of that faith, it's clear they forgot. And of course, we talk about this around Christmas time, about how Jesus was of the house of David, and David was a son of Solomon. I know we're not big Bible readers around here. So, and it was having Jesus, Jesus quoted the Hebrew, the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, prophets, that helped establish within at least some of the writers, helped establish a claim of being the Son of God versus the Son of Man. And that actually has controversy in it that most people don't know about, but that's not our job here today. So there's a whole thing going on there that's worth exploring. But the main thing is to underscore that we have three religions worshiping one God for at least 4,000 years. And Judaism could make a claim, at least in the West, of being the world's oldest religion. Right? except for maybe Hinduism. Now, most people have no idea how much Jewish thought, along with Greek thought through Alexander the Great, continues to influence the world today. And maybe even more importantly, influences the way we see the world. That we have this built-in Judeo-Christian bias in the way that we see and experience in the world. So we have page 5 before page 4. So the way we see the world individually and collectively affects our consciousness being that everything that we think consciously and unconsciously, which is the sum total of our thought. This is what we mean when we say consciousness. Now, this is important because as people who practice this science of mind teaching, which is religious science, in case you don't know, if you're new online there, we understand that not only does our thinking create our reality, but we are also responsible for that thinking. And to maintain, we're also responsible to maintain our conscious connection with the divine as we understand it to be. Now, the sweet part about this is once we discover that path, which is uniquely ours, each within our own experience, to have a direct experience of the divine, once we find that, it's no longer a chore, right? It's something we look forward to, right? However fleeting. So, there's a story about Mother Teresa where someone had wrote her a letter saying, one time I had this connection with the divine. It was so sweet and sublime. And I just wish I could get back to that space. And she wrote back and said, yeah, I had that when I was 16, and I'd love to get back to that as well. She was like in her 70s then, right? So if it feels fleeting, it may be. So it's important for us to understand these things. And this is to understand that our thinking creates our reality and that we are one somehow with this spirit in some crazy cosmic way, that we are thinking with it and thinking into it. Now, that's what we teach, right? Now, does this mean that all of these other religions are illegitimate? No. Are we saying that ours is a superior teaching? No. It's a both and gig, right? Because we all got here some kind of way, except for a very small minority who grew up in religious science. And that's a very slim part of our teaching. Now, out of Judaism, I think it's important to acknowledge, out of Judaism we get the 10 Commandments, which influence the two greatest commandments in Christianity, that of love God with your whole heart, soul, mind, body, and love your neighbor as yourself. So we all know this one. And even the 5 pillars of Islam, I would say. So there's one God. Muhammad is his prophet. They diverge there. There are strict prayer protocols, but there are also in Orthodox Judaism and in Orthodox Christianity. There's an almsgiving. This is one of the pillars within Islam. There's fasting. Of course, we spoke to that earlier. And then there's the Hajj, or the pilgrimage to Mecca. So it seems to me that in this faith system, we see a discipline, really a strict discipline of faithfulness and generosity. Now, this is from an outsider's perspective, right? Speaking for myself, because I think it is important to remember that adherents to these various religions may not hold the notion of oneness. In fact, I know they don't hold the notion of oneness the way New Thought people honor this notion of oneness. And if we're going to honor all religions, which we are committed to doing here, it's also important to acknowledge and accept these distinctions and differences for where there may be similarities. There are definitely key distinctions and differences, and not to acknowledge that is to dishonor them. So we don't want to do that either. So, and they run the gamut, so let's just, because of where we are in the calendar and where we are today, Jesus being Messiah versus Jesus being a prophet, versus Jesus being a student of the Jewish philosopher and teacher Hillel. So if anyone knows Hillel, it's like, wow, Jesus he must have been lifting some stuff. Who does he think he is, Ernest Holmes? And it's been secular anthropologists and not theologians that have pointed to the similarities, right? So, but still, once you see the similarities, it's really hard to ignore them, isn't it? So the elements of flood myths, for instance, establishment of moral codes, the elements of the Osiris myth, the Egyptian Osiris myth within the Moses story, right, which is going to be celebrated here this week. Alexander, a student of Aristotle, along with Ptolemy, who was one of the pharaohs going back a ways, right, after they conquered Egypt, of course. So, Alexander conquering all of the known world at the time up and over the Indus Valley even, into India, and spread Greek ideas with them. Hellenistic Jews were actually kind of looked down upon by the more orthodox believers within that community in the Judea way of being at the time. And then, of course, ultimately, it was Rome that became the big influencer on social media at the time. Though it was mostly present in law and government by the time Muhammad came along, right? And so, by the way, you need to be grateful that we adapted Arabic numerals. Could you imagine trying to do the square root of anything in Roman numerals? Just a little aside there. So I'm not... And I'm not going to touch science and money into this mix, though one could make an argument that folks certainly worship both of those things. So what does all this mean for folks who think as we do? Well, what I see is what these systems are doing are really providing bumper guards. And I mean the human family, right? So they say fire was discovered about 100,000 years ago. So it only took us 95,000 years to acknowledge that there was one God. I mean, that's really, right? We've only been playing with stuff a very short time. So what does that mean to us? So what I see is these bumper guards kind of kept us playing nice, at least nice enough. At least from a behavioral perspective. They don't really encourage you to go deep so much. So basically, it comes out, there's one God, you're not it. Keep your hands off my wife, my stuff. And while you're at it, don't even think about taking my stuff or my wife. And if you do, God's going to get you. That's basically the 10 Commandments right there. And I would say that this worked pretty well, except, there's that whole Crusades thing, and then the Inquisition, and of course, Islam, in the 13th century, and they killed a bunch of people and created the Ottoman Empire. And then, of course, there are the regular pogroms against the Jewish people, which culminated in the Holocaust. That was a travesty, historical travesty through Europe for centuries. Did religion cause all of that? Or were people manipulated into these horrific events by people who used religion to foment hate? We can't really know the answer to that, except to say that in modern times, in spite of what 24-hour news would tell us, the world today is far more peaceful than in any time in our history. There's a guy named Stephen Levine who writes to this a lot. And I think it's because we've had these bumper rails that have kept us out of the gutter and allowed the game to move forward because of the gutter rails and not in spite of them. So I think it's important that we honor the notion that we are standing on the heads and shoulders of our ancestors who came before us, regardless of which faith system we came out of, and to understand that all of this is a continuum. This is probably the last aspect of the evolution of the human being, is in consciousness, right? And then, but we're slow learners. 100,000 years, and this is the best we can do? Still doing belief systems like Ukraine? Right? So, for those of us who are involved in this teaching, particularly those of us who come from other faith systems, it's so important to heal our stuff about where we came from. Right? So there's a difference about if we've been subjected to some kind of abuse from our religion of origin, even if it was, being tormented with the possibility of being in purgatory forever, right? Whatever it is that we struggled with, right? Again, we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that there are real gifts that we have been given, that have been downloaded into us. And still, we find ourselves in places like this, and we are posed with the question, what if God is good and only good? Not only what if God is good and only good, but what if that really is true? How would my life be different if I really knew in the core of my being that this was so? For myself and for everyone else, especially that one person that we hold in contempt, that there is no way that could be true for them. But no, it is true for them. What if God is good and only good? And how does this change my relationship with the divine? Is it possible then to have a direct experience of the divine? Do I no longer need an intermediary? And how do I access that connection? How is God omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, omniactive? How could that even work? And then within our layman's understanding of what they're talking about with this quantum field stuff, how does all this hold up? What if all paths really do lead to the mountaintop? Now, these are much deeper questions that modern peoples eventually get to once we shake off the smoke screen of distraction of modern living. So Ernest Holmes writes in the 365 today that life is activity, and when we stop being active, we turn away from the newness of life. We turn away from the newness of life. It's an interesting fact that whether we know it and whether or not we like it, our lives are so tied with God, the living Spirit, that we cannot remain young and enthusiastic unless we know that we are one with that which knows no age and no burdens. And I think this is what draws people to new thought. There's an appreciation of the scientific and at least an appreciation for the Judeo-Christian mindset up to a point. There is a universality that we embrace in Hinduism and Buddhism that encourages us to have a direct experience with the divine, and we don't have to be a monk in a monastery or a nun in a convent to go do that. You can do that right now while I'm talking and your mind is wondering when I'm going to shut up. That would be a demonstration of God right there, right? How can I make my way in this world with all of these seemingly divergent views competing with each other? Right? So there is only God seeking avenues of creativity as expressions of divine creation, which is what you and I and everyone else are. We too reflect that impulse to create. sometimes in not so helpful ways, but creative just the same. I have really got myself into some very interesting messes over the years. How about you? As we seek, find, and cultivate that divine connection, however fleeting, we gain the confidence to allow this creative impulse of the universe to express itself through the lives that you and I live, and everyone else too. And when we adopt the attitude of oneness with all peoples, the logical result then is in finding ways of connection with them so that we can then have an experience of the divine here on earth by means of each other. And that's a pretty sweet deal, right? If, as the Rev said, we can get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits, right, and allow that natural connection to be made. So let's take a deep breath as Teresa tinkles us into this moment. And just think about this day, this Palm Sunday, as we prepare within our own family traditions, if we have them. Prepare for Seder, prepare for this revisiting the passion of the Christ, if you will. To see the good in it, to see the gift in it, to allow ourselves to feel the sweetness in that moment of Moses in front of the burning bush. What's your name? I gots to know. I am that I am. No, really, what's your name? I am what I am. I am that I am. So if we know the story of Moses, we know that this quote-unquote imperfect person became the prophet of the Most High. And so then the question is, for those of us who are willing to accept the challenge, is what is it in my life that I am willing now to step into to allow the Most High to make itself known in my life, and in the overflow of that, sprinkle on others and bless them as well. Think on these things today. Take them into your work week. See what changes. And then come back next week. Well, we'll roll away the stone from our tomb of old thinking.
Gazing out my window in the stillness of the morning, the first rays of dawn light the day. I feel the golden glow begin to warm me as the darkness surrenders to another day. Just like the seed when it's planted in a garden can grow into the tallest tree. It needs the air, it needs the sunlight, needs the water to become all that it can be. And I feel surrounding me. I see and I begin to understand, and I know that love is all around me. I breathe and I remember. is always shining on us. Even when the shadows of the night hide the day, just like the prism can reveal its hidden colors, when the light shows the way. There is one God, one thought, one action, everything and all there is, always changing, always the same. I am, God is. And if God is the ocean, I'm a single drop of water. If God is the mountain, I'm a tiny grain of sand, all a part of the same eternal wonder. God is, I am. God is, I am. God is, I am.
James, a little more love there. Why not? You can find Teresa online, on Spotify, she's never on Facebook. Don't look for her there. No, she actually, if you want to come see her tomorrow night at the Sugar Mill, is it? The Maui Sugar Mill. It's in Tarzana, and it's before your bedtime. So come on down and check out Teresa James and the Rhythm Tramps. I'm looking forward to checking that out myself. And so it is time for our offering. So I'm going to ask, Deborah's going to bring up the offering basket. If you have come prepared for an actual physical offering, you can come up when the basket is free. And then, and for those of you who have been so incredibly generous and faithful through your online giving, whether it's through bill pay or the many ways that we have set up here to do that, either through our web page, through PayPal, through Facebook, you know, all the various ways that you have been participating now for a couple of years. So let's go into 2 verses of our offering song. 2, yeah. And sing along if you know it.
Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit gives through you, Spirit receives through you, Spirit lives and breathes through you. Oh, Spirit lives and breathes through you.
So just going, hello, Holly. How you doing?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so let's just take a deep, conscious breath, shall we? Knowing that this basket represents 2 things. One, the heart of the individual, the generous heart of the individual that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. And that we now, representing this spiritual community, this basket representing our spiritual community, we accept these gifts with deep appreciation, love, and respect, as we know together they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless this center for spiritual living, all centers for spiritual living, anyone connected to them in any way, that we extend a tiding, a blessing of prosperity and harmony upon our community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, that we know for our planet as well, that all of it is an emanation of divine consciousness, an emanation of divine mind expressing creatively. And to the extent that we know this to be so, we see it. We see it demonstrating in ways great and small. This lifts our hearts and both pulls us and propels us into ways of living that raise not only the demonstration of good within our own life, but the lives of others as well. And that's a good thing. And together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. And so let's just give you one more slather in here, Teresa James. One more. And again, are you doing your Motor City gig yet, Rev? Retired. Okay, that's what he says this year. So, and then you guys are from?
New Thought Spiritual Center.
New Thought in Burbank, New Thought Spiritual Center. So
I'm doing my mindful message 5 days a week.
At what time?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
Mindful Message, Doug LeBeau.
Your mindful message.
Your mindful message at what time? Whenever.
It's eponymous.
Okay.
It's all over.
Kind of like my midday
That's
noonish
right.
thing.
I posted East Coast time around 11:30, 8:30 here.
8:30. So if you're looking for a little morning lift, look for Reverend Doug LeBeau. All right. All right. So let's get our own Rev up here to pray us out on Pacific Standard Time.
I'm grateful for your posting, Ted. Yeah, it's good. Oh. So it is with the consciousness of gratitude, I say thank you for this time and this reassurance and reinforcement that we are standing on the shoulders of giants to move forward in life, to appreciate the wondrous contribution from which we came. So as we go forward from this moment, we go forward knowing of our own greatness and our own beauty of life that is radiating from our hearts. And as we know this, we see this, we experience this from every soul that we meet. And so it's with this awareness and this consciousness, we say thank you for this time that we have enriched ourselves together. So it's with love, we embrace the law and say yes to life as we say together. And so it is.